What was the motion that we need to make? To acknowledge report?
And proceed.
Do I hear a motion by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo to acknowledge report of council? Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Did anybody sign up for public comment? No, I don't have anything here. I would like to make a public comment. Oh, okay. Oh, you did? Okay. I do want to make a public comment regarding, very briefly, the meeting that we had this morning with Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol. That initial meeting, as I tried to do, was to have it in a public setting, and that was pretty much explained by me at last meeting. Wednesday morning, Department of Homeland Security got back to us saying they preferred not to have a public hearing because they didn't want to enter into the public comment phase, because this meeting was supposed to be for us and other governmental entities that were there. So it wasn't just Cameron County that was there today. We had representatives from City of Harlingen, La Feria, Los Fresnos, Palm Valley. Who else was there? Brownsville Public Utilities Board. So it wasn't like it was just a closed meeting for Cameron County officials. Our intent was to have it public here at 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. That kind of got changed around by the Department of Homeland Security. They said they preferred not to have a public meeting, and so consequently they changed the hour to 8:30 a.m. Today at the Border Patrol headquarters. With that meeting, and I'll give every member of the court the opportunity to say whatever they'd like to say on behalf of this meeting. David Garcia took diligent notes during the meeting, along with the questions that were asked and the responses by DHS and everybody else. I've asked David to put together whatever he's going to provide the court members, to make that available to the public so that everybody knows what transpired, or as best as his notes were during this meeting. We continue to have dialogue with Department of Homeland Security in terms of addressing not only the environmental impact that this project is going to have. I think the one good thing that came out of this, one of the things that came out of it was they actually came over to Brownsville and toured the university campus. They toured the East Loop area that Commissioner Wood had brought up with some concerns. I believe they also toured maybe around the PUB plant, but they toured this general area. These were some folks that came down from Washington that had not seen it firsthand, so that was a good thing. We have a long ways to go in terms of what direction we are going to go in. It's going to be a very, very difficult decision either way, whatever this court decides to do. But today was not meant to keep anything from anyone. It was, I think I made the decision, do we just, not meet with them because it's not be public, or do we continue this open dialogue? Members of the court, members of the public that were there, and the elected officials that were there from other municipalities, everybody had an opportunity to ask any question that they wanted regarding this project. I think they answered most of the questions with candor. There were some questions that they could not answer because they're still awaiting information, but they continue to move forward with this project. Our position is we all recognize that it is a federal issue, it is a federal responsibility, but the border security is a federal responsibility. But yet the state of Texas undertook the passage of $110 million appropriation to address border security along the border. So they did not want to wait for the federal government to do this for us. So, there's no argument that the responsibility lies with the federal government in terms of border security, in terms of this levee rehab. We know that. I don't think that this court needs to make a decision today or in the next week, but I think hopefully prior to the middle to end of March, then we're going to have to decide if we're going to pursue this levee wall concept, or we're just going to continue fighting and try to convince them about the virtual wall possibility. Now, that issue did come up, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think, John, you were there, and what they indicated was that that there's already some virtual activity here. I think Commissioner Wood brought that up. They concurred, they do, but the virtual wall type thing that they're talking about is one component of what they consider to be border security. Along with that, They're talking about additional personnel, more boots on the ground, some kind of a physical barrier structure wherever they believe it needs to be. The issue of Riverbend came up. Why was Riverbend basically not looked at in terms of a border fence? And they responded that there was so much activity there in terms of it's a residential area. They have one way in, one way out. They didn't believe it was necessary to do anything other than patrol the area and maybe put some type of virtual technology there. I think a lot of people asked a lot of good questions. There are still a lot of unanswered questions. I believe that if we're going to go forward with the levy issue, and at this point we really don't know, I'm going to pretty much either ask or demand that they scrap the environmental impact study that they have now and start over again and do an environmental impact study specifically dedicated and designated toward this new plan to see if in fact or what the impact is going to be. Cameron County is a lot more sensitive in terms of wildlife than Hidalgo County is. And how they got around it, what I understood today was that they're working, DHS is working with Fish and Wildlife. That's what they're doing. And that's something that they're going to work out. They need to work that out. So aside from that, I believe that they answered as many questions as they could, but at the same time, I will tell you that they're very deliberate in what they believe they need to do. They know that they have a mandate in terms of getting this thing done. And as I gathered today, unless you all gleaned something else, but their intent. The other concern that I have is that this project, I think they said they were going to start construction in June, if I remember right. Well, June, as we all know, begins hurricane season. And I've got some real concerns in terms of them doing this whole project during hurricane season. I think that we need to ask for an environmental impact study to do, that's going to address this levy issue. I continue to support a moratorium and slow this process down until we have more impact. I will tell you that I was a little disturbed reading some of the commentaries by some of the folks running for president saying that, yeah, they signed off on the act, but they didn't really know, didn't have all the information. Well, they should have had all the information before they voted. All of us here, before we vote, have all the information, or try to have all the information available. So, but with that, I thought it was a good meeting, and I think we need to continue the dialogue. I did speak to a young lady today from Weslaco, told her everything that took place. I think all of us here welcome the input, from every group, whether it's the pro-border fence folks, the anti-border fence folks, the environmental folks, everybody, and hopefully attempt to come to a happy middle ground somewhere, if that's possible. But at this point, I just want to bring you all up to speed, and with that, I would welcome any member of the court at this point that participated to have them give you their feedback. I can start with Edna because you were the first one that was there.
We rotated during the meeting because we didn't want to have a quorum. But during the time that I was there, I was impressed, Judge, with the number of people that were there, and it shows the interest that everyone has on this particular project. The one thing I was concerned about, and I want to thank David Garcia, he's done a tremendous job of putting together questions, I guess, that have been asked before and so on, and those were available for us. And one of the questions that I had, and David had it listed, was the effect on the irrigation districts, because the irrigation districts had been calling me and saying, what effect will it have for us? And so they pretty much said they would not be affected. But I'm not an engineer, but I can't understand how they can't be. So I'm still not. Their answer was that they would not be, but I'd have to get a more detailed information on that question. The one thing I do want to say, Judge, the interest, pro and con, on this issue has increased as far as from my observation, as I get emails, phone calls from people on both sides, some for it, some not, the majority against it. So the interest is there, and to me it's getting at a higher and higher level. So this is a very critical issue.
Next was Commissioner Wood.
Thank you, Judge. I want to reiterate Commissioner Tamayo's statement that at no time were more than two of us in the meeting with the rest of the folks that were there. We alternated as far as commissioners. The judge was there all the time, and then we would alternate, which really kind of made it a little cumbersome because I went in, after Edna had been there, not knowing what they'd talked about. I asked a lot of questions, got some answers, got some, we don't know, got some, well, we'll go look at it. The judge indicated people in Washington voted for it without knowing the facts. People are fixing to install things without knowing the facts. That's a problem. I see that from the onset. Their idea of what they want to do, and I'm not sure, because I wasn't there when they talked about when they were going to let the contract or when they were going to start construction, but the mayor of Los Fresnos told me that they were planning on letting the contract in June, but maybe they're going to start the construction in June. I don't know, because that part I wasn't there. But it's still confusing, and the idea of a virtual wall to me would be the only feasible compromise on it. I don't want a fence. I don't want a wall inside a levee. I pointed out to them that our levees aren't of the normal height that would accommodate a wall in a levee. There are a lot of issues that they don't know what they're talking about. They hardly knew anything about the East Loop, for example. But yet they're out there to build something. They're going to do something. When I asked them about U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we're working with them. They didn't say they were working with them butting heads or working with them everything is singing Kumbaya and going right along. So it's a difficult thing. They answered a lot of questions, but a lot of the answers didn't make any real sense to me. And so I came away a little more than disappointed. Still don't have a map, and that's one of the first things I brought up. It would really be nice to have a map to see where they plan on putting a wall, and one of the responses was, well, it's moving. We don't know where we're going to put it. Well, if you don't know where you're going to put it, how are you going to do it? What are you going to do with it? Just put a virtual wall up and go home. Leave us alone. I'm sorry.
And I'm not sure. I thought that the draft environmental impact study had a map of some sort in it. I remember seeing something.
It does, but they said that's changed several times.
Yeah, it has. And I think the reason that it's changing is because, and I'm just guessing on their part, but the reason it's changing is because we are having dialogue, and they are talking with different communities, and so that footprint is changing. So that's all. All I can say is that we need to continue the dialogue. We need to listen to everyone, and eventually, at some point, they're all going to know what they're doing. I just hope it's not too late. Commissioner Gatsa, you were next.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to be there about 10 minutes towards the end of the meeting, and I apologize for not leaving earlier, but I didn't know when they were going to end the meeting, and by the time it was 10 till, they ended the meeting, and I know Commissioner Benavides didn't even have an opportunity to go into the meeting, but my sense of what occurred was a whole lot of uncertainty. I even heard one word that I had never heard before mentioned, and that was a floating wall. If there was a weir built, that they would consider the concept of a floating wall. I'd never heard that used before. And, I was able to ask a couple of questions that I had in regards to the matter, and there was very much uncertainty. It's evident that the majority of the emails, as Commissioner Tamayo says, are not in favor of this wall being built. I think most of us are not in favor of this wall being built, but it appears that they're trying really hard to cram a wall down our border. There was no certainty in the whole meeting for me. Everything was like, we're dual tracking this project in Hidalgo County. We might consider dual tracking this project in Cameron County, but we need enabling legislation to be able to even consider the dual track method in the other county, which might be what you do in this county. And I'm listening to myself, and heck, we can't act that quickly at the county level, much less at the federal level.
You might want to mention what they talked about. Hidalgo County was pursuing this project at risk.
Yeah, they were pursuing, and I mentioned, I says, I would not be of the opinion to consider investing money in a project at risk. And at risk would mean that we would risk investing money on a project that would never come to fruition. Okay.
Or that we wouldn't get reimbursed.
Or, well, more importantly, that, you know,
It wouldn't even happen.
the reimbursement was an issue that they don't want to even talk about.
But what we're talking about investing with them would be to improve the levee system. And Hidalgo County's levee system is different from Cameron County's levee system. And IBWC in-house is doing what they need to do to raise Cameron County's level of their levees to a point where they'll have 3.5-foot freeboard on any flood that they project might come down the river. And 3.5-foot freeboard is 3.5 feet. The levee would be 3.5 feet above the highest level of the water, and they plan on having this done prior to the end of this federal fiscal year, which is the summer. They also, by that time, will have the tops of the levees caliche, so there'll be an all-weather road up there for Border Patrol to use, and they won't be down so bad. That eliminates the real need for us to be concerned about IBWC not being able to certify the levees to FEMA, which then in turn, if they don't certify them, then FEMA would declare all of us a floodplain, then mortgage companies and bankers would make all of us get flood insurance. So that should take care of that problem, and that's underway now. In fact, they've already finished a lot of the levees in Cameron County, a lot of the portions of the levees, doing their in-house work. And this was announced, IBWC Commissioner Marin was here a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and made the presentation standing right there at the podium. That's what they were doing in Cameron County, and
they're working on it already.
Yeah.
They're working on it. They've got a lot of miles already completed.
Yeah, but what doesn't make sense, they're spending about $1.8 million for that. The initial number that we got from IBWC was $125 million to do something with the levees, and I guess I'm trying to get something in writing. David, you want to address that real quickly? Because one of the issues that we talked about very, very briefly was that I want to get something in writing from IBWC that once they finish this, that they are going to certify all our levees, not just part of them.
We just want to get something official in writing.
In writing,
that
exactly.
says that, you know.
And
Now,
if they have 3.5-foot freeboard, and if they do them the way they're doing them now, I don't see how they could not certify them. I mean, that's more than what is required of the levees by treaty, by international treaty.
Yeah, I guess the issue is that under the study that they were doing, the Lower Rio Grande Valley Flood Control Study, $125 million was their estimate for work to rehabilitate the levees up to the standards they need to be. And of that, I think it was about 30 to 40 million that needed to be work done in Cameron County, $30 to $40 million worth of work. And so we're trying to figure out
where the gap is,
well,
what happened.
you know, if-
A lot of the gap
what
is
the
them
issue
doing Cameron County in-house, whereas they expected to let certain areas in Hidalgo County for a total of like $6 million, and the estimates coming in from contractors is 3 times that. Well, they're not doing that in Cameron County. They're doing the work in-house with their own personnel, with
Yeah,
their own
but I think
equipment.
they're 35 times off, though. I mean, Cameron was just the 40 million, right?
yeah, in our area.
And so they're saying they went from 40 million to 1.8 million. I mean, the override isn't that high with the contract. So there's something not right. We're trying to get something in writing to address that, but that is a separate issue. It's an important issue, but that's a separate issue from the wall. That's something totally different. We may be able to get away with not having our levees decertified. That takes a big load off of everybody, but that does not address the fact that they may continue with the border wall project. The WEIR came up briefly, but they're saying, hey, until we see, I was surprised to hear that PUB had not provided, and PUB confirmed it, that they had not provided DHS with their report or something, and Mr. Buziak confirmed that today. And I said, get it to them now, because somehow if the WEIR also becomes Plan A-1 or B, then that's going to create a whole different environmental impact that needs to be. Either way, I believe that they need to come up with a brand new environmental impact study to look at if it's the WEIR, if it's the border wall, or if it's the retaining wall concept, the retaining wall concept. So
That's where the floating wall.
that's where the floating wall comes into play. But as in speaking to Mary Wood last week, you know, she's not happy with the weir either. So, I mean, something's gonna get done, and probably, you know, 50% are not gonna be happy and 50% will. So, and I do want to apologize. Commissioner Benavides was there the whole time. I didn't know how long the meeting was gonna last till I got there. And I asked him, how much time do we have? And he said, you know, we have to be out of here by 10:30. And as it was, we got started about maybe 15 to 18 minutes late. So everything was very rapid. There was a lot of questions being asked by the cities and that were there. But Commissioner was there, but by the time Commissioner Gatsa got there, it was about 10, 15 minutes left. He had some questions he had to ask. By the time it was over, we got to wrap it up and off we go. So, but she was there. Okay.
Judge, I'd like to say something.
Yes, ma'am.
I was there, and I was not afforded the opportunity to go in and say what I needed to say. And I understand that all three commissioners got to go in, but you were there all 2 hours, and I think if, out of courtesy, you could have extended me the opportunity to go in there and say what I needed to say, because I also sit on this board. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Well, I called you to apologize, but unfortunately, I was required to be there the whole 2 hours, but that was not my choice. That was their call.
Who required you to be there 2 hours, Judge?
DHS. They wanted me there during the whole process, and then have commissioners come in one at a time.
Well, then you did know that you had 2 hours, and you could have at least notified the rest of us.
When I got there, we knew it was 2 hours.
Okay, but then you could have at least had the courtesy to ask. I'm sure if Commissioner Garza was there 10 minutes, I know John wasn't there that long, then you might have let Commissioner Tamayo know that.
Well, she was there at the beginning. I don't know how long she was there.
I was the first one that went in, and then I thought it would be till 10:30. No one told me
It was till
to get up,
10:30.
I knew I needed to leave so that others would come in.
Commissioner Gatsa?
On a different note altogether, you know, we got word last week from Texas Department of Transportation that they will be letting on the $75 million left on the Colonia bond issues that the state is doing for Colonia improvement. We have $3.682 million that are appropriated to Cameron County for Colonia projects. And of course, we've got to bid the other projects by March 31st of this year. So there's an equal amount out there that's going to be floating around for the highest qualified colonias, the highest proposals, the best put together proposals that I know the Department of Transportation is already working on. So it's time to make sure that we get those all finalized, which was great news. The second set of great news that we got was TxDOT has already set the hearing process for the improvement of US Highway 77 between Raymondville and Interstate 37 in Corpus in motion. The hearings for that, unfortunately, were set for March the 3rd in Raymondville and so on down the road. Some of us, I know at least two of us of this court will be quite busy March 3rd and March 4th. So I would hope that some of the other commissioners or you, County Judge, attend those meetings on this project. And there's a schedule that's been provided to all of us. I think it's a project that I know I've been working on since I came on board. It's been a great project, and now TxDOT going through this process is the first phase of our interstate into Harlingen, Texas. And I think we need to all get into Brownsville and into the port and into everywhere else, you know. But we need to get behind it. The reason they're starting the hearings in Raymondville and not in Harlingen is because there's controlled access points already from Harlingen to Raymondville. So it's from Raymondville all the way to Corpus that the work will be done on. So, you know, that's where they're starting there. But I encourage, you know, the other folks here to attend some of those hearings. And the following week, rest assured that, you know, hopefully Sophie and I can attend some of the others.
Okay. Thank you.
Judge, I'd like
Yes,
to go
ma'am.
back to the meeting we had this morning, and I'd like to make a recommendation to our administration, that in the future, because I don't want this to happen again, and I didn't know, what time we were supposed to leave or whatever. I left on my own, and then notified the others, somebody go in, I came out. And all I did was ask one question, but there was a lot of discussion on it. I would recommend that we be given a schedule, and that way everyone can have a chance.
I'd rather recommend that we not have these type of meetings and have them open public meetings so everyone can attend and we can all be there at the same time, because we're all at a disadvantage when we're just hearing parts of it. Now, I'm hearing things right now that I obviously didn't hear because I wasn't there when they were said.
Well, John, you can thank me for getting all the information, because I did tell them, when I was in the meeting, that since I wasn't going to be there and I wanted the information that would be discussed and given and questions answered and so on, to please, no one was going to be taking notes if I hadn't brought it up. So, David, thank you. You and Pete, I know, started taking notes, because the people hosting it or whomever did not have that accommodation in place. And so the county came through for us and did that for us.
I'm looking forward to David's notes because I wasn't there first time.
Well, just, we did not call that meeting. They called us because they had a meeting with Hidalgo County the day before. They called us to set up the meeting. As far as an agenda, we didn't have an agenda. Even when we got there, there was really no, unless you saw one, David, but they didn't have an agenda, okay? So that would be nice, and I think we need to try to do that, but this was not our meeting that we called. They called it. Like I said last week, I wanted to have it here in public, post it, but their concern is that once you post it, then it's open to everybody, the media, and they were not in a position to want to do that. So the choice was, well, then forget it, or do we just go ahead and try to continue visiting with them? And again, there was no intentional leaving out. It was just it got started a little bit late. They had to be out by a certain hour. When I got there, I asked them, how much time do we have? And they said, we have to be out of here by 10:30. And there was still discussion even after everybody had to leave. There's still people hanging around trying to visit on some stuff. So it was not done with any intentional anything. I was asked to be there, pretty much all the time, and that was it. So I think I got in trouble for having some of the other governmental entities there, because that was really not their intent either, but they just, they decided not to keep them out. So it was done with good intentions. It didn't work out that way. Well, I apologize once again. And hopefully the next time, if there is a next time to do this, I'll do everything I can to do it, to post it in an open setting. But if they say no, then we can post it and we'll be here and they're not going to show up. It's that simple. But we'll do the best we can in the future. Mary Wood, did you have something?
I think, Judge, what you're saying also is that, perhaps it wasn't our intention, obviously, to have the meeting structured that way, but their intention to do it. And that is an example of the problems they have with it now. They've kept everything under wraps and not wanted the media and the public to be there to inform them on what they plan on doing. Part of it, I think, is from what I've seen, is they don't know what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, it may very well be, but again, when we call the meetings and they are open, if they call the meetings, I can't dictate to them what they can and cannot do. But I hope to have more dialogue with them. And again, I'll emphasize, let's have an open meeting here in public and allow everybody to come in. But that was not the case in this case. They did not want to do that. And I apologize for letting everybody believe that was going to happen, but we were told Wednesday that they preferred, they pretty much insisted that they would not participate in that type of a public meeting. So, Mary Wood, did you sign up for public comment? No, I didn't sign up for representative. Okay, that's fine. You can go ahead, sure.
I guess I would have to go home and kind of alter my comments that I have, but I just wanted to keep this issue before the Commissioners Court and let you know that there are citizens out there that are concerned. And since I was not able to attend the meeting this morning, I wanted to come, and I'm glad I was afforded the opportunity to hear you all's views on what happened at the meeting this morning. So, I just want to, I know Judge Coscos last week you were talking a lot about the possibility of having Katrina-like flooding in Cameron County. And I just wanted to say that I think that the premise that if we don't build a wall, we will experience Katrina-like flooding is fear-mongering. And I think that if you try to build a wall along the Rio Grande River, then why not build a wall along South Padre Island, who's the most susceptible to the Katrina-like flooding that we would have in Cameron County. I think we would have the Katrina-like flooding along the Arroyo Colorado like we had after Hurricane Beulah. So I think to try to push forward on this project of a levee along the Rio Grande doesn't hold up. So I'm basically here to discourage you also from imposing additional taxes on Cameron County residents to build a wall. Again, it's a federal project, and I don't think that the taxpayer should be burdened, even with a 2 or 3 cent increase in taxes. I think it has all the same detrimental effects that we've seen from any wall proposal, and probably will see in the future. I mean, a wall is a wall. It prohibits people from migrating, but it also prevents wildlife. It's very detrimental to wildlife. If you've seen what the highway barriers along Highway 148 have done, there's a lot more roadkill since we have concrete barriers up. I'm also concerned now that I've heard tonight about the Texas Department of Homeland Security funding, and I hope that I imagine that that's probably federal funding that's come down to the states, and I will continue to be concerned about any money that they try to spend to build any kind of a concrete barrier along the river. So I would hope that the commissioners would keep abreast of that and keep the public informed about where the funding's coming, if and when that they try to build a border wall. Again, it would a wall like this would basically render any land behind the wall subject to government condemnation. I think there's even a provision in the draft environmental impact statement that says that very thing. And I think that they basically say they'll have the authority to patrol and condemn land anywhere behind the wall that they want to, if they feel that that's necessary to secure the border. And like you brought up, hurricane season, it's on its way, so I find it almost near to impossible to construct this wall that you're talking about before hurricane season starts. We all know what rush jobs have done in Cameron County if you look around at our jails. I think it's ironic that this whole proposal's interesting. I talked about if we're going to build levees along the Rio Grande, well then we need to build them along South Padre Island to prevent flooding. We need to build them along the Arroyo Colorado to prevent flooding, and that's just not the right way to go. I just think it's a mix-up of priorities. I'd like to go on to another little, it's a big but related project that Cameron County is undertaking, and I saw your request for proposals published in the paper to build a resort hotel on South Padre Island in Cameron County Park System in Andy Bowie Park, which I believe is about 20 acres, and I'm very, very concerned about this proposal to allow someone to come in and put a hotel in our Cameron County parks. I feel that our Cameron County parks are for the residents of Cameron County and the visitors to Cameron County. So I know that this proposal came up last year. I know it was under Judge Inahos's administration when it came out the last time. But I really think, especially when you're talking about flooding issues, why should the county be promoting development in our county parks that would be susceptible to Katrina-like flooding? I hope you will eventually just go away with this project and do things in our county parks that benefit our residents. I know it's a tax generator, and that's what y'all are looking for Cameron County, but I don't think, being a past member of the Cameron County Parks Advisory Board, I usually voted against all of these types of proposals because I did not think it was the highest and best use of Cameron County parks. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Wood. On that, let me, since I can't address you specifically, I can address David Garcia. David, where are you? Or where's Javier Mendez? Is he here? Probably not. One of the caveats that we did when we went out for proposals for this 20-acre site was to make sure that, number one, the public knew, number two, that they ran it by the Spirit Group, Isla Blanca Folks Group, okay, the Parks Board, almost everybody we could think of, and have them come up with opposition if it's relative or pertinent or whatever. So it's a little bit different this time than what it was the last time, because this way there'll be a lot of public input, and if the public resoundingly comes and is against this, then I, for one, will just nix it. I will not support it. But there's got to be an overwhelming. It can't be one person out of 50 or 100 or whatever it is. So that is what we've done with this situation. I think I've made it very clear to Javier to make sure that all these groups were kept up to speed. They'd be given copies of the proposal that's going out, so if they have any issues with it, they can come forward and express them. And if they come back and they say, you know what, we don't want this, it's not a good use, then that's something that this court needs to really factor in. So it's not be something we're going to do regardless of what the public input is. So that'll hopefully clarify it a little bit. But we've done that deliberately to make sure that everybody knows what's going on above board, up here, and if there's any opposition, everyone will have an opportunity to oppose this potential development. Now, I did not read the RFP, but it's pretty broad in terms of it's a hotel or whatever it's going to be. Is that correct?
It talks about a resort hotel with supported amenities, retail, and so on.
Okay. But I think the issue is that everyone will know about it before we make any decision in terms of what the RFP looks like, what we're looking for, and again, if there's a concerted effort, like what happened with Isla Blanca Park, and you have a whole bunch of folks come in with boxes of petitions and all that stuff, well then I think I, for one, say, well, you know what, nix it, don't do it.
And we did address those groups that you talked about, Judge.
Okay, and their comments?
They're supportive, and they were very appreciative that we brought it forward before moving on it.
Okay, well, that's the type of input that we need,
Right.
so, okay, thank you, Javier. Any other comments of folks that did not have the opportunity to, I'm sorry, Nat, yeah, you want to say something?
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. The reason for this public comment is to make all residents of Cameron County aware that this week is Severe Weather Awareness Week in Texas. Briefly, I would like to share with you some statistics from Marshall Fretch of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Number one, Texas holds 6 of 12 world record rainfall rates in 24 hours or less. Number two, Texas leads the nation in flood-related deaths almost every year, averaging twice the next nearest state, California. Number three, Texas leads the nation in flood-related damages most every year, sharing the distinction with Florida and Louisiana. Number four, some 20 million of Texas' 171 million acres are flood-prone, more than in any other state. Number five, Texas leads the nation in the average number of tornadoes per year with 12, Florida and Kansas being distant second and third. Each year, the National Weather Service and the Governor's Division of Emergency Management, in conjunction with the Cameron County Judge's Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, join together in a public awareness campaign to prepare our residents to deal with severe weather events. The goal of Severe Weather Awareness Week is not only to educate new residents and new generations about the dangers of Texas weather, but also to remind our own residents to update personal emergency plans, double-check emergency supply kits, and to be prepared for tornadoes, floods, hail, straight-line windstorms, and other potentially dangerous events. We encourage residents to visit the county's homepage and click on the Severe Weather Awareness link, which will lead you to a wealth of information on this subject. Lastly, the Judge's Division of Emergency Management will be disseminating PSAs to the local media, informing them of this week's importance. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Nat. Any other public comments? All right, item 4, presentation and/or resolutions. Cameron County Master Gardeners Volunteers presentation on the Master Gardener Arboretum project at San Benito Annex Building next to Maggie's house. Dr. Pettis, how are you?
Honorable County Judge and County Commissioners, on behalf of the Texas Agri-Life Extension Service, the Cameron County Master Gardeners, we want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to present some information in reference to the dedicated area next to the San Benito Annex, which is now Cameron County Arboretum that was dedicated back in November. With us today to do the presentation is Mary Beth Simmons and Colleen Catlett. Other members present here is Debbie Cox, Mary Gutierrez, and Dorothy Early. Those are members of the leadership team, and we have a slide presentation that we'd like to present to you, as well as consideration for a resolution for a grant that we're going to propose.
First of all, we'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to use this land to create a demonstration and educational garden. And it was in November that you approved the use of this land at the San Benito Annex for that. And by November, we were ready to begin with Phase 1, which was the planting of 29 large trees in one day with the help of Cameron County and the City of San Benito. Our other partners in this project so far have been and will be San Benito ISD, in particular the High School Horticulture Education Department will be partnering with the students, and they want to work on the garden some and use it as an outdoor classroom because the high school is right next door to the Arboretum. Also, the Cameron County 4-H Youth Program will be using it. We have had help from AEP and Asplund in donation of compost for creation of the garden. The objectives of our Arboretum are to provide an outdoor learning classroom environment for both youth and adults in Cameron County, and to increase knowledge and adopt good management practices in gardening. Participants will share information and will teach others about environmental stewardship when gardening, such as the use of compost, drip irrigation, water conservation, mulching, the use of water-wise plants, in particular native plant material, and good tree care management. We also hope to increase the knowledge and increase the number of vegetable gardening plots in participants' landscapes, and that will also help promote healthy eating. This is the layout of the garden when we began, and it's being adapted a little bit as we go along to accommodate an outdoor classroom and a compost demonstration garden, which are some of the phases that we will be tackling next. All of these trees are planted, and we hope to do the butterfly and hummingbird garden and some hedges along with the compost demonstration gardens next. This was our dedication, and our President, Dorothy Early, welcomed everybody, and we had an invocation and a blessing of the garden. Commissioner Garza also shared some words of wisdom and welcomed everyone and talked about the project a little bit. We've been very thankful to him and his office for the assistance that they give us in this project. The City of San Benito and San Benito CISD was represented by Celeste Sanchez, who is Mayor Pro Tem and also an assistant school superintendent. The Chamber of Commerce was very well represented that day, along with Master Gardeners. There were about a dozen of us who were there for the dedication and then to spend the day planting trees. And this was the first tree that we planted. It's a Brazil tree, and it runs adjacent to Maggie's house. And those are just a few other pictures of us making sure we're doing it right. And we have been very thankful for AEP. A lot of the Texas Native Forest Project, which is probably a third to a half of an acre, will be covered with mulch and walking paths. And when they are in the San Benito and Harlingen area, they come and give us good mulch to spread out in the garden.
We'd like to thank the commissioners again for all the help that they've been in this project in the county, and we're going to be applying for a grant for this project to add. We had the map on there a while ago. We did not have a pavilion facility for outdoor classroom. We have now had an opportunity to apply for a grant for the outdoor classroom facility with the composting facility. And that's what we've come to ask the court for a resolution to help us with that as an entity that can help us with the application.
Well, that was the presentation in reference to an update in reference to what the Master Gardeners are doing at the site, and we still have a long way to go. And I want to thank all the partners that have come together to put a plan together and put different faces in reference to timeline in reference to what's happening or what's happened and what will happen. So we want to thank you all, Commissioners Court, for your support, and especially the Master Gardeners and others that have come together and partnered, and will make a reality in reference to making that site an educational site, not only for the community of San Benito, but also Cameron County, and I'm very happy to see it done.
Well, thank you very much for y'all's work, and I was just kind of curious to hear what Commissioner Gatsa's words of wisdom were. I know he's got a green thumb, but...
my words of wisdom are that they look very different here than they do out working on the garden. You know, I didn't recognize them.
We do have a new Master Gardener class that'll be starting next month for anyone in Cameron County that's interested in gardening, and the Arboretum will play a big part in our Master Gardening training.
Well, thank you very much. It's a good project.
Your notice has been in my office and will be posted, and sent out via email to all the folks countywide.
Thank you.
Any further comments?
Well, I'd like to thank you for all your volunteerism, and I know that you were very kind when my husband enrolled in your project, but I think he's an overachiever. He attended the same classes in Hidalgo County, and I asked him, why did you do that? And he said, I just wanted to compare and see if there was any difference.
Everything is greener in Cameron, okay?
And now he's enrolled in the naturalist class.
I hope he did say we're better.
So thank you for motivating him, and he admires all of you very much. And I thank you. Volunteers are our backbone in our county, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any further comment?
I would like to move that we acknowledge their presentation and approve their resolution.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Was that item B as well?
Yes, sir.
Let me read it. Consideration approval of a resolution authorizing Cameron County to apply to the Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council for the 2008 Source Reduction and Recycling Composting Project, and to establish Cameron County's partnership with the Cameron County Master Gardener Association. That was moved and seconded and approved. Item C, presentation by Ben Barrick regarding services to be provided by Tactical First Response.
Judge, Commissioners, I apologize again. I'd like to ask this item be tabled. He had a conflict.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to table?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner, did you move? Yeah. Gatsa, second by Commissioner Wood. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries.
It's okay.
Consent items.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Joanne.
Consent items 5A through 5U, and then travel items 6A through 6H. Are there any items that any member of the court wish to take out and discuss separately? Hearing none and sensing none, do I hear a motion to approve all items as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Gatsa. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Items for discussion and possible action. Item 7A, budget amendments, line item transfers, and/or salary schedules. Javier.
Judge and Commissioners, I passed out some line item transfers and one budget amendment laid them in front of you earlier. Line item transfers are just that. They're within budget, transferring funds between various line items. There is one budget amendment which is on the last page for the DA drug forfeiture account, transferring funds from fund balance into data processing to pay a pending invoice that they have for a software program.
But this is their fund balance,
Yes.
right? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item B, approval of claims. Have the court members had the opportunity to review the claims, and with the addition of those that were passed out? Any questions on claims? Hearing none and sensing none. Do I hear a motion to approve county claims as presented? Moved by Commissioner Tamayo. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Please note my abstention on the affidavits that I turned into you. Item C, approval of minutes for February the 11th, 2008 special meeting. Has the court had the opportunity to review the minutes?
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Wood. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item D, consideration of possible approval of the county auditor's salary. Do you want to address that, Rob? Or who put it on?
Richard put it on.
Richard.
But I do know that the district judges and the county court law judges met. They had a meeting, they published according to the statute, and they approved the salary, and it's before the court, and it's for your approval now.
And this does conform to the
This
statute
complies
as
with the
opposed to what we
statute.
had once before, which was $10,000, $12,000 more.
Yes, sir. This one complies with the statute.
I move to approve.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item E, discussion and possible action regarding proposal by Tropical Texas Behavioral Health for increasing crisis mental health services. Terry, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. It's an opportunity to speak to you today. I'm Terry Crocker. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Tropical Texas Behavioral Health, your community MHMR center serving Cameron and Hidalgo and Willacy counties. I'm here today to speak with you, update you about what's happening with crisis mental health services in the Rio Grande Valley area, and to urge your support of a proposal that we are moving forward to Department of State Health Services that will be going forward later this week. I'm going to be giving a condensed version of the presentation I believe that you have in your packets. First, I want to talk very briefly about what is a mental health crisis. When a person is experiencing symptoms indicating mental illness, potential risk of harm to self or other people exist, or their functioning level, these symptoms results in inability to provide basic safety and self-care, and possibly most importantly, if intervention is not provided, it's very likely that further decompensation and risk of harms to self or others will occur. This is what we are focusing on right now. You may recall or know that DSHS at the last legislative session asked for and was awarded $82 million specifically for improvement of crisis mental health services across the state. There was a significant variation of service levels that were available across the state. If someone went into crisis in Longview, the services they would get there versus what might happen in El Paso. 68% of these funds have already been distributed across the state. We have been getting a number of these funds, and the state held back about $21 million. The primary reason for me being here tonight, they held those funds back for a competitive process for proposals to come in from local mental health authorities across the state. I'm going to talk just briefly about what we're doing with the funding we're getting right now, and then go back to this community investment incentive, the $21 million piece. Right now, with the funds that we're getting, beginning actually next Monday, we'll be changing what we're doing with our hotline services. They'll be answered by trained crisis counselors that will provide screening, information, intervention, and support to callers 24/7, 365, and that hotline will be accredited by the American Association of Suicidology. And also on Monday, we'll be putting in place mobile crisis outreach teams. They will be established in Edinburg, Harlingen, and Brownsville. Again, this starts next Monday. These teams of people will be going actually out into the community and serving people wherever that crisis occurs. Yes, ma'am?
No, that's fine.
Okay. We will be coordinating that activity through the hotline. I have distributed information to all our primary stakeholders yesterday, letting them know that this service is beginning, also including a flow chart as to exactly how they'll access this service and what this service will be able to do for them. This went to cities, police chiefs, sheriff's departments, CEOs of hospitals, ER departments as well. Also, with these extra dollars that we have secured contracts and we're working on contracts with all of our local private inpatient behavioral health providers. We already have one in place with South Texas Behavioral in Edinburg. We are just finishing up the contract with Valley Baptist Health System at their new inpatient facility here in Brownsville, and we're about halfway through the negotiation process with Doctors Hospital at Renaissance, also in Edinburg. And we hope to have those before our board and approved, the remaining two, before our board and approved at our next month's board meeting. Now, with the South Texas contract, we began admitting patients under that contract in December of last year, just a couple of months ago. Now, a couple of points I want to make, and as you all certainly well know, the census of the Rio Grande Valley is rapidly increasing. As our population grows, the need for crisis mental health services will continue, and we also know for a fact that the state has no intention at all in expanding the number of public psychiatric beds over and above what we have already. That's the 55 beds at Rio Grande State Center are our public beds. And by comparison, San Antonio State Hospital, which is the next closest option for us when Rio Grande State Center is full. Rio Grande State Center has been full more often than they've not over the last 3 months. So San Antonio State Hospital is the next option when they are full. By comparison, SASH was on diversion, meaning they were not admitting patients 199 days out of last year. So when Rio Grande State Center was full, we basically only had a 45% shot of having an open bed in San Antonio. So that's when a real nightmare for law enforcement and everyone involved, certainly the patients and their families, comes up where they're having to go to places like El Paso and much farther away across the state. We also know that people that are presenting in ERs are tying up valuable resources there and certainly increasing wait times. And as this court certainly well knows, it's a huge time and transportation burdens being shouldered by many different agencies in our law enforcement community when a crisis situation develops. And over the past 2 years, there have been over 400 transports out of the valley on average for inpatient psychiatric care. And this is just some information on some recent data specific for Cameron County. Number of just mental health clients served. You can see a dramatic increase that we've seen from 05 to 07 and a similar increase in number of crisis services. Again, this is just in Cameron County alone, not our entire catchment area. Okay, I want to get back to the competitive crisis funds. Again, DSHS has identified these funds, and what they're saying is, based on a competitive process, there'll be proposals coming in from all across the state. I know at a minimum there will be 25 of those proposals coming in. They will be funding those proposals, the ones that they pick, depending on how far their $21 million will go, at a 75% cost, meaning we have to come up with a 25% local match for those funds. In-kind donations will count towards that match, and the proposals are due back to DSHS this Friday. We have already about 60 letters of support for our proposals. We're just putting the final touches on them. We hope that we'll be able to include a resolution from this court for support of this proposal. Hidalgo County Court passed that proposal this morning. We are confident this proposal will decrease the number of times anyone would need to go out of the valley for inpatient psychiatric care, increase the number of times that increase the number of diversions of mentally ill people that might otherwise end up in the criminal justice system, decrease the number of times people present at the ERs, or if they present, decrease the amount of time that they're there in the ERs, again, because they'll have another option for them, and decrease the amount of time and transportation involvement of law enforcement across the entire valley, both at the municipal PD level, sheriffs, and everyone involved. Our proposal itself and the budget that is attached to that, what we're proposing is that we ask for additional funds for additional inpatient psychiatric bed days, for additional psychiatric beds, also for additional transportation funds. Under this proposal, what we've developed is basically an average cost of day, per day, what we're projecting and what we're seeing so far with the negotiations with the different inpatient facilities, an average crisis inpatient stay of 3 days times the number of transports on average that we're seeing out of the valley. That comes up to about $840,000. We've added in about $150,000 of transportation costs. Now, you will look, the FY08 is a partial amount because DSHS is telling us they will award this sometime in early April, so we'll only have a few months left of our fiscal year, so that 09 would be a full year impact of this. So that annual total is just under $1 million, meaning a 25% local match would be just under $250,000. So there's a number of different formulas that I've looked at and how we might get this, and there's a lot of different variables in terms of that local match. First, I would like to say I believe if we are chosen, again, what I'm doing here today is to get our name in the hat, and then if we are chosen for this, work on developing that local match. I believe there's going to be financial impact for a lot of different organizations across the valley, from law enforcement, cities, ERs. There's going to be a lot of impact, organizations that we can and should go to and ask them to be a part of the local match. I don't have the cost in my proposal in terms of, for example, how many dollars would be saved by, say, a police department, because some of those costs are rather soft in that if officers are not doing this sort of activity, they're going to be on the beat doing things that they need to be doing, protecting our citizens. They're fixed costs. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's going to be costs that will be there. One split I've looked at just based on U.S. Census Bureau projections for 2006, there's about a 65-35 split between Cameron and Hidalgo. That's very close to what the match is currently for my GR between Cameron County, what you donate, versus what Hidalgo County donates. If we look at that sort of split, the worst case scenario for the Cameron County proposal without anyone else coming to the table, which again I believe they would and they should, would be about $87,000 on an annual basis. That I would see as being a worst case scenario. And then finally, again, when someone has a mental health crisis in the valley, it's a struggle for everyone involved, certainly the families, certainly the patient when they have to go out of the valley, law enforcement, emergency rooms, everyone involved. With our strained resources, a growing population, I can almost assure you this will become even a worse problem than it is in the future, and I hope we take this opportunity to make what I believe will be a very, very significant impact on this. There's a lot of problems that are related to this. To me, the primary issue, the problem, not the symptoms of the problem, but the main problem is when we max out in beds at Rio Grande State Center and we don't have any other option for inpatient beds. that's when everything really comes into crisis mode when in this mental health crisis system.
Terry, I think it's important, and thank you, but I think it's important that we talked about briefly the other day when we visited. Even though it's a fixed cost, right now we know how we're being challenged right now, just trying to get constables to take our mental health patients to wherever they need to go. It's a constant struggle. We're relying on the volunteerism of the constables, since they believe that's not their primary objective. Even though in some of the law enforcement agencies that are utilizing and helping us with this, that is a fixed cost, and they can release their law enforcement officers to go someplace else to do. So hopefully this can alleviate a lot of this, if not all of it. Is that correct?
That's my impression, at least for a period of time, based on how our population continues
Now, the
to grow.
matching that you talk about in the couple of slides ago was $249,750, I think.
Correct.
That would not be a one-shot deal. That would be from here, and as long as the legislative bodies are
That's correct.
doing this,
That's
correct?
Judge. DSHS has said this will be a permanent addition to our GR allocation for this service specifically, until or unless one or two things happen. Either the legislation pulls back the funds that are available to DSHS, or the local match is no longer available.
Now, you're going to be working with our major hospital line to
Absolutely.
assist us with this, and
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Gatsa?
I've got a question on the current allotment that we already participate with your facility. How much of that is being utilized on such projects such as this for local matches?
Well, the Cameron County match right now is $291,515, and that is spread out amongst our service array throughout the county. As you can see, the numbers of services in the county have gone up significantly. In terms of the numbers of people being served in Cameron County based on that contribution, you're at about $87 per person per year that we're providing services to in terms of the Cameron County match.
Yeah, but my question was a little bit different than that.
Mhm.
My question was, what, if any, of that match, that allotment is not a match, that we're giving you now,
Correct.
is being leveraged to bring in such money such as this?
Oh, I understand your question.
Okay.
DSHS has specified we can't use any of our current funds for this project. It all has to be completely separate. I can't contribute any dollars towards that.
It's got to be new money.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we talked about, I think I asked her the same thing. Can we use the existing contribution as part of this match? And I think you were very clear, said, no, it's got to be brand-new money.
Exactly.
Okay, so this $250,000 is going to have to, well, first the $95,000, when would that kick in?
Well, part of it can be in kind also, if I understand it.
That's
which
correct.
may save us.
Okay, but give me some examples of in-kind
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
that would warrant $250,000 or close to, or something along those lines.
Well, I think we could certainly look at something in terms of what the county is putting up towards some indigent care, and if that has a mental health impact, I think it's worthy of study of that. If it's a mental health impact, could be crisis in nature, we might be able to hold that up as something that the county is doing to support this sort of activity that the state may say would be worthy of an in-kind donation.
I'd like to hear from Yvette and see if she can enlighten us as to perhaps on the topic of in-kind, Yvette.
I'm not really all that familiar with the in-kind project, but I do know that it is a problem. And recently, within the last couple of weeks, there's been several Cameron County officials that have tried to meet to try and address the issue of the burden that's placed on Cameron County for the mental health transport. And just to give you an idea, the JPs are involved, the Sheriff's Office is involved, the constables are involved, legal has provided us with some consult as well, and Valley Baptist is also involved. The emergency management is also involved. And so what we're trying to look for is the funding source, because Valley Baptist at this time is looking at the possibility of maybe funding such a project if Cameron County were to initiate it. So it's quite possible that maybe the money that the hospitals would be willing to contribute that would be normally given to Cameron County, that we could use this as part of Cameron County's 25% match. So it's quite possible, instead of Cameron County developing the program, which is what we were trying to do, that maybe now we can utilize them, and they're bringing 75% of the money to the table. So that's better than us bringing 100% to the table and having it funded by the hospital.
Would you be able to, as the judge said, utilize some of those soft costs that right now we are utilizing for the transport and for the work that is being done by county folks as part of the in-kind that would be required for this grant?
I believe that's possible, Commissioner. I think if we are picked for this project, I would recommend that we get a group of people together to look at all those possibilities and start looking to the state in terms of these are the sorts of things that we can bring to the table. Which of them will you say will count towards in-kind?
I just hope that you're right, but just sitting here and what I know about grants, they're telling you that we cannot use any of the monies that we presently are contributing to you. I don't know that they'll allow us to use in-kind that's already in operation. Do you follow me?
Mm-hmm. We can probably try to work towards the in-kind, but we also need to try and continue to work with the hospitals because, Valley Baptist is willing to fund some of the transport because it's cheaper for them to have that mechanism where the patient is immediately transferred out of the emergency room, as opposed to somebody staying in the emergency room for 3 to 4 days, which, if they have to house somebody because the transport is not available, then that's what they have to do. So that's why they're at the table trying to see if they can, because it's going to require, a peace officer from Cameron County. So that's why they're willing to pay Cameron County to transport this person out of the emergency room, because it's cheaper for the hospital to do it that way than to house the person.
Valley Baptist is in the process of doing their budget for this next year, and they've already had one meeting with constables and JPs, which I will say was maybe 50% attended, maybe not that much. I know you were there, Beth. And one of the issues that they have brought up is they're willing to do this funding. However, they need to get more buy-in from more constables and more JPs. And they have another meeting scheduled for tomorrow.
Yes,
and hopefully there'll be more people there in attendance. And they also asked for clarification on who's actually responsible for transporting. And transporting is what that's talking about on this issue with the constables and JPs and the sheriffs. And the person responsible for transporting is whomever in law enforcement that the JP assigns it to. And it could be local PD, but apparently our JPs are in the process or in the habit of assigning it to constables and sheriff's offices. But there is money available, but we've got to come to the table and say we're ready to participate in the program, so Valley Baptist will do some funding on it. And that is some in-kind money that's new to us. It's something that was offered a couple of years ago, and JPs and constables, for some reason, it never worked out. Hopefully it'll work out this time.
Right, and legal has been involved in trying to address some of those issues and who's responsible and how did we get to, the sheriff's office and the constables being the only source of mental health transport for Cameron County. So it's a project that we're all working on and we're all eager to, it's a burden on the hospitals, on the constables, on the sheriffs, and so we're all trying to find something that, that's good for the community and still functional for Cameron County.
And I certainly think the grants that you're applying for, Mr. Crocker, are going to be beneficial for the area. Obviously, we're all very much aware of the problems we have with psychiatric care, especially in Cameron County, and the lack of care we have. Valley Baptist opening their East Campus and having 37 beds is great, but we still need more, and we need it. We need it yesterday. I certainly feel like that if the Tropical Texas is chosen for one of these grants, that we should be able to help you look for funding, and I think that we can help you find funding for the matching grants. I appreciate you being here.
Sure. What kind of timeline are you looking at?
This proposal will be going to the state Friday. We've got to have it there on Friday. They are saying that they will be choosing an awardee in the early part of April, and I would imagine funding shortly thereafter. There's been very tight time frames from the state in getting this out. I believe we received this in mid-January, so we had it
And I understand Hidalgo County approved a very similar resolution earlier today.
That's correct.
Terry, just, on your fiscal year is 8/31, correct? Ours is 9/30. So when you did this FY08, that is based on your fiscal year. The dilemma that we're gonna have, I think, and we're gonna have to figure with the budget officer, is that there's a 1-month overlapping time, so I don't see how we can commit, let's say on September 1st, unless we just do a portion of it. So in other words, this $95,750 is not gonna be $95,750 for our purposes. It should be higher than that. And then the 249 should be less than that because it's a different time. Is there a problem with that for you?
No, not
Okay.
for us, and the state's aware of that as well, and they're aware of the county's inability to promise or encumber funds for future time periods. They're aware of that. It's one of the reasons.
No, we're not committing to these funds, but I think that we need to commit to to potentially support it. And then we're gonna have to come up with $100 and some odd thousand, this fiscal year, okay? Whatever the.
I'm not sure where you're coming up with what we have to come up with, because the
Well,
resolution.
I'm going based on this.
The resolution says, now therefore, the county commissioners of Cameron County do hereby resolve to support tropical protection behavioral health by working to secure the local match dollars required if selected for the award. We're not committing any money.
No, we're not committing any money per se, but, you know, I have to look at worst-case scenario. We cannot find the revenues from outside of the Cameron County family, then we gotta go to us at some point if we wanna do this. And all I'm suggesting is this $95,750 is not $95,750. It's another portion of that. The 249 would be less because it's just a fiscal year issue.
Right.
But if we decide to do this, and assuming that you're not successful in getting the in-kind, and you're not successful in having the Valley Baptist, distribute any money, ultimately it's gonna fall upon us. Is that correct?
Well, then, if there's no other,
if
people
there's-
that would come to the table.
Correct.
I would be forced to go to Hidalgo and Cameron County
Right.
courts and say, if we don't get the match, this is going away.
Worst case.
Now, let me ask
That's
you.
the worst case, yes, sir.
It goes
Yes, sir.
away.
Yeah, worst-case scenario goes away, and I don't think any of us want that to happen. But just so I'm clear, on the 249, that is not our share. That's got to be Hidalgo County and our share.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's the total local match
Right.
required.
So our share would be 35% of that number.
If you use a 35% ratio, yes.
Well,
So
yeah, it's-
$87,000.
Okay, all right, gotcha. All right. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Gasa, for your diligence in this effort.
I wanna, okay, the resolution.
Just the resolution.
I just wanted clarification.
Yeah, the resolution.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Gatsa to approve the resolution as presented, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item F. Thank you, Terry. Discussion and possible action regarding the county's state and federal legislative agenda. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me for leaving, David.
Just real quick, Judge Commissioners, we're finishing up our packages to take up to Washington next week, and I passed out a list of the projects we're going to be including. The Brownsville, Harlingen, and San Benito area, as well as the extension of I-69, our energy and water support of the realignment of the waterway, the flood control project for the levees, the Veterans Hospital support, and the 24 operation for the Veterans Bridge, again, at Los Tomates. Those are the preparing the packages, and we're also preparing letters for the senators and the congressmen, which will pretty much are done. We're just getting them proofed so that we can get them signed by everybody and have them ready to go for next week. Any questions?
Okay. Any questions, Commissioners? Do I hear a motion to acknowledge Mr. Garcia's report?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo. Do I have a second by Commissioner Wood? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Wood. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. God save this honorable court.